Hey, it's Opinion Lines Math Industry, and we are going to learn about drawing conclusions. So, in geometry, we've been taking a look at proofs, and we've also been taking a look at how we can use our statements and our reasons to give feedback and to back up our proofs, and it will tell and show our teacher how we got that answer. What this lesson is about today is using what you already know and trying to logical think to how to solve a problem. This is differently than proving because we're not exactly trying to prove something, but we're actually trying to show why it's that, but not by proving it. Here's an example. So, the knowledge you already know in geometry, we have to understand what the conclusions for this figure showing right here. So, to understand this lesson a little bit better, we're gonna do a 2-column proof, but we're gonna do it differently. Instead of proving, we're trying to conclude something. So, the first thing, we would usually have a statement. Instead, what we're going to write is called the conclusion. On the other side, what we can write is we can have the reason, like the reason why we include it. Here's an example. From the knowledge we already know, we can explain and assume that AED is a straight angle and is 180 degrees. So we're going to say AED, angle AED is 180. We can assume that by saying the definition of a straight angle. So that can be an example what we can conclude about this diagram. But hang on. This is 90 degrees because it has a box right here. Can't we say that angle 1 and angle 3 are 45? Well, with the rules of geometry of when you can assume and cannot assume things, if you think that these two are 45, because 45 plus 45 plus 90 is 180, it is right, but you can't assume that, because you don't know if these two are exactly 45 degrees. Here's an example. Imagine you were trying to do the exact same kind of problem, but it looked like this. These two do not look like the same, so you can't assume how big angles are unless it's given to you right directly. So in that case, this is not going to work. Let's solve another one. We can conclude that BEC is a 90-degree angle. BEC is right. The reason why is it's the definition of right angles. Let's come up with one more before we come with the next conclusion idea and the next diagram. What we could also say is A and D and E. E is in the middle of A and D. Therefore, we can say that point E is in the middle of A and D. we can't assume that E is the midpoint because it was never given to us. But it is definitely in the middle of A and D. And we're going to say we got that because it was our assumption from diagram. If there's any more concluding ideas involving this diagram, type in the comments below what you got and see in the comments what others got. So these are examples of conclusions that you can choose from, that you can assume from here. You cannot assume how big something is or how wide something is. That is one of the rules that you can't break in geometry. So let's do another example. Okay, so here's our final example. Hey, guess what? The problem actually gives us something. QR as a segment is going to bisect segment PS. So there are a few things that will pop up in your brain immediately when you have that given phase kind of give in to you. So let's start concluding things and let's start reasoning things. So the first thing that comes up to my mind is PQS is a straight angle. So segment PS is a straight angle. Is a straight line with a definition of straight lines. Sometimes your math teacher will actually say, instead of saying straight lines, say 180 degrees. Angle PS is 180 degrees. PQS. Another thing that can explain is that QR bisects PS. That is what was given to us. So we're going to write given. And the other thing is, since it bisects PS, we can say that Q is the midpoint. Q is the midpoint. Of segment PS. And what we're going to say is segment bisector can bring you to a midpoint. But guess what else? That midpoint has another rule. Since it's a midpoint, and since the midpoint means it's the equal distance from P to Q and Q to S, we can say they're both congruent. So you see how it kind of domino affects the entire problem? So we have segment PQ is going to be congruent with segment QS. The reason why is a midpoint is going to bring you to two congruent lines, or two congruent segments. So, a tip for doing these kind of problems, try to make it where you can have this one, the first one, link to your second one, that will link to your third one. The reason why is you can't exactly understand that PQ is congruent to PS unless number 2 is there. You can't have a second chapter in a book unless you already have chapter 1. Or you can't go to college before you are born. That is another idea. So, when you come up with assumptions, try to make it in order so one assumption can help you assume another assumption that can help you assume another one. And that explains the video. I hope this video has helped you understand about drawing conclusions and using the building blocks you already know to apply with further math and harder math. Thank you for watching Taoping Airlines Math Industry. Like and subscribe.